up the dumps. I got really heart attacks, and she got attacked, and I think that's why they put her in prison. And I've never heard from her since. And then Seeking Dharma, the other interview, one of the very first ones I did, other than Kirsten off the original platform I started, that was the second platform I did off of my original platform with a gentleman that got me started. That one interview, I can't find it anywhere. It's just gone. It's amazing. Everything else I've ever done is on like 50 platforms. I'm like, wow, they missed two. Oh my goodness. So it's a lot of platforms over the years, and we have pretty much everything there. All of Kirsten's interviews I did with her, Nino, Taino, you, uh, Standing Tall, Patriot Underground, Proud Patriot, lots and lots of really good people. So thank you for all the years, Tom, and thank you for the support. And it's been a wonderful association. So let's talk some news.
Thanks, Shane. Yeah, it has been a wonderful association. And talking of YouTube, I feel that it's getting a little better. So she hasn't announced it yet. She's about to, but I think it's okay to say. Well, I'd let her know about it. So Anna Marins from Brazil, who introduced me to you. So a shout out to Anna. Um, I realised that you can get channels back on YouTube. It seems to be quite a new thing. I know some people in the past have done it, but I told Anna, and she managed to get her channel back. She's doing a few things, I think, to just kind of shape it how she wants. But she had a big channel back in the day, and they took it from her, and it's a hard blow for anyone that have had a channel taken. You've had your stuff, and so
Oh, that
anyway,
is good news. So you mean Anna in Brazil?
yeah. So she's
She's good. I used to love being on her platform. Her and her sister are very fine, wonderful ladies. So that's
yeah,
good news. Thank you.
Anna and Mari, and she's been big. Well, she's been almost like the cornerstone for Brazil for the movement. So it's great that she's got a channel back. And so, in terms of getting onto YouTube and it being easier to be back on it and more free to talk, I think will be a wonderful thing for all of us. So, it'd be good to see you back on there. I'm hopefully getting my other channel back soon. They said they will, but it hasn't happened yet. So, prayers and thoughts and good intentions of that will happen. But
I've noticed in my research on there's a decode I'm wanting to do before I do high jump. Two of them actually. I've found
Mhm.
all the material on the Taberlan, Operation Taberlan, which was the British invaded, tried and got in and had one man killed in the attack on Base 211 New Schwabenland in Antarctica, the Nazi base, the NAZI base down there. And that was before Operation High Jump. But there was a Russian operation of, I think, Soviet days, right after World War II. Their special forces was called Spetsnaz, like it is today. I'm not sure though. I wasn't alive then, so I don't remember. I wasn't alive at that time. So if anybody has information on that Russian invasion, in which they went into and tried to get rid of that base. And then, of course, there were three nuclear weapons used and a cover of three other nuclear weapons in a different part of the world. So they said, no, that's not in Antarctica. That's over here. Don't look here. Look over here. So yeah, there were actually three in Antarctica, but there were also three used, I think, in the southern Pacific, deep southern Pacific area. But that, is a distraction. So I've got those informations, but the one on the Russians, I cannot. I found an excellent video expose by the Russians about Operation High Jump, which is actually posing certain questions because a lot of people have debunked it, think it doesn't exist, it never happened, or it was a scientific expedition. And there's questions in that video by the Russians that make it pretty obvious that's not what it was. You don't send a carrier group for 6 months with unlimited funding with a submarine, a carrier, an air wing, a destroyer to do a scientific mission. And then the carrier group comes back after 2 months with half the air wing and a lot of dead missing men. And the destroyers just all busted up or even completely gone. I've got differing statements on that it was sunk or that it was so badly damaged they couldn't bring it back or they had to put it in dry dock. So that's part of what I'm trying to work on before I can get it out. But they made some pretty viable points that most people don't think of. And then, I'm doing first an intro to Antarctica, along with some of the amazing, pyramids and things of the culture of Atlantis and Lemuria that is what composed Antarctica. Is one small piece of Atlantis, and then a larger remnant of Antarctica became, Lemuria became Antarctica. So due to due to continental movement, catastrophic continental movement, not drift, as they say. It wasn't a drift. It was more like a surging movement, massively surging at the end of the first flood that caused the first major destruction of the continent and left Atlantis to be 5 islands. And those parts of those 5 islands are what's part of, if you look at the Perry Reese map showing Antarctica, supposedly, not even discovered yet, but yet not only before it was discovered, but without ice. So it's pretty stunning. And there's another old map I found that shows it as well. And then there's people that say there's a map showing it with 4 rivers, but that's actually Polaria, the other side of the top of the world. And then I was going to show, I was looking up, people keep saying you can't go to Antarctica. I found you can get a round trip flight from Heathrow, for example, for $1,500 to fly to the South Pole Station.
Really?
You can go kayaking, you can go mountaineering, you can go parasailing, you can camp out, you can spend Christmas, you can you could go seal watching, whale watching. You can have a luxury cruise around the entire thing, a sailboat cruise, a personal guided tour to the South Pole. There's different areas. There's uniced areas that they don't allow you to go in, but there's a lot of it. You can just walk right up on there and camp and do all kinds of stuff. So the cheapest flight I found is from Chile. It's only $519 by Qantas, and Qantas flew an A430 Airbus and landed in Antarctica. I'm like, okay, for those that believe there's a dome, how did it get through there? It's pretty obvious. Like you can spend Christmas and watch the sun going roundy, roundy, roundy. It's the best time of year because that's, relatively speaking, summer there.
Yeah.
So really fascinating stuff I'm working on, and I put all that stuff up, on my website.
So these will be, once those episodes are complete, people can pay the $77 a year or $7 a month, and they can get full access to that and plus all the other library of work.
Yeah, and there's many series. If you look at one thumbnail, you'll see a number in the bottom right corner. It may say 34. That means that's 34 videos there, not one. It doesn't look like a lot. There's we're hitting over 400 different video presentations on there. We do a scriptural, actually a spiritual. We have community chats for Europe and for the US and for a Spanish community chat. One happened this morning. We have every month, I have a Q&A that lasts 2 to sometimes 4.5, 5 hours. So there's a lot of things there. You can, ask questions. You can talk to other people. Community. We have a health section where we have health presentations. Spring is coming. We have a planting and gardening section, talking about different seeds and planting in different areas of the world and composting and all of this stuff. And then for the fall, how to, preserve and pickle things and all that stuff to help you in every way, or just to have some people to talk to and places to go for, information that's on a platform. The server that it's on has absolutely no censorship. I can say anything I want without, with respect to copyright and, of course, not slandering, and I don't do blasphemy. But relatively speaking, I can say anything I want. I can say the thing that went in people's arms. I can say things about the Mustache Man by name. I could say NECI out loud. I could,
Good. Excellent. Well, folks, go to Gene's website and sign up, because a wealth of, an encyclopedia's worth and then some worth of knowledge. And 77 a year or $7 a month is great value.
Yeah,
And
with the tariffs already working, the gas prices are dropping in the U.S. The cost of food and eggs and those things are even available. Eggs weren't even available because Biden had millions of chickens killed because of bird flu. It's like, yeah, right. Okay, here we go again with this lies. But okay, it made it hard to get any eggs. Now there's eggs, and the cost is going down. The inflation rate has decreased by over 0.5%. I don't think people understand what that means. The bonds have decreased by 0.5%. That one is massive. I don't think people understand what it means. What it means is the $36 trillion of debt that the U.S. has is in bonds. It's backed by what's called a T-bill, which is a loan from the Federal Reserve, which is a privately owned bank that prints money. Like Elon Musk found 20 machines that just print money out of nothing. It just comes out of nowhere. Bam, there you go, 40 billion to USAID. It's like, where'd it come from? From the computer. It's like just these 20 of them just print stuff out of nowhere, out of little bits of information, So all of that's being cleaned up. But what a half point means on the interest on 36 trillion, do the math. I mean, you reduce your loan by 0.5% and you owe 36 trillion. It's like you refinance your house and you get a half point less. How much do you save on $1 million home? Substantial. Now make that 36 trillion. It's like, whoa. So that is huge. And people don't understand the tariffs at all. So if you'd like, we could talk about that, Tom.
yeah, let's get into the tariffs, because, like you said at the show, with China, I got the news on that with the AHA Halo. So these retail at $599. If people enter Tom numbers, they get $30 off and free shipping. But if all this goes through tomorrow, like I said, John is from New Zealand, but he lives and works out in China. I don't know where all his manufacturing is, but if it's directly from China, which I think it probably would be, there's going to be a 104% tax or tariff. So, folks, if you're in the States, you're getting all the benefits inside, but if you're getting some goodies outside, then get it now. I've got some numbers on it, Gene. So tariff in numbers, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. Tariff comes to 72, which also comes to the word money, and it also comes to first, America first. April 9th, which is the big one on China, I think it's 12:01 Eastern Standard Time, if I read it correctly. April 9th in numbers comes to 121, which comes to the Trump. It also comes to Golden Jubilee. 104 translates into a number of things. One of them is Jerusalem. But if you just do 104 the number and then add the word percent comes to 81, which is dollars, which is Zimbabwe. But you do 104%, so 104 plus 81 comes to 185, which comes to stock market crash. And it also comes to Donald John Trump, 185. China is 35, as in JFK 35th president, but also bond, which you've mentioned. China tariff comes to 107, which comes to quantum, comes to currency, comes to Trump's, comes to military, comes to Aquarius, comes to Superman, Eternal Life, XRP plus XLM. I said to my audience yesterday, I was driving around and I saw a number plate with XRP. And then 28 minutes later, I saw one with XLM on it. And then for good measure, there was Keck, like Pepe the Frog in the movement. That drove past as well, but I didn't get a picture of that. And then if you do tariffs on China, that's 155, which is the millennium. tariffs on China day comes to 185 again, Donald John Trump. So there's a few correlations there, but yeah, let's go into the tariffs, why, and what is the bigger picture, because we know President Trump is, the people in the movement understand what he's doing in terms of the bigger picture and the long-term goal. But what, in terms of the mechanics, what do you see with the tariffs? I read a really interesting post. I put it on Twitter. I retweeted it just earlier, and this guy gives a really excellent kind of analysis on it. But yeah, please, let's go into the tariffs, the Trump tariffs. Gene, give us the Trump tariffs.
Yeah. So first, the obvious thing is, of course, if you're putting, from what I heard, it was so far at the last one. I went to bed yesterday. It was, or earlier this morning, rather. It was 34% on China that he was going to put. So if you put that on, already many car manufacturers and the world's largest chip manufacturer in Taiwan.
But it's going to be 104 tomorrow, apparently. That's the news. So it was 34, but apparently it's gone to 104, which is massive. So anyway, yeah.
So if you bring back that manufacturing into the US, which really doesn't have much anymore, that means it's made here. And so, of course, the first obvious thing, that means jobs. And if you buy, like I was watching a video on sent to me from a guy on TikTok that's gone viral, showing a cigarette lighter. It's 20 in the US, it's 20 or 25 in the US, 20 from China. Well, you put that tariff at 34% on, it's 30, which means then it's $5 more. Not only that, but it's now made of a better quality in the US and it's less, but all of that money stays here. If you buy the, before the 21, $5 of it stays in the US and the 15 goes back to China. So, you can see that benefit, plus the job. So if you look at the manufacturer for the chips, which is 87% of the world's market, it's not just a chip manufacturer. It's this superconducting chips that they got off of MH370 that they took and put in the dumb in Diego Garcia, portaled it out of there. And so those superconducting chips are what allowed Trump to get in 2016 to steal back the election, to ship the votes back to where they came from. That's all they did. If it was for Hillary, they stayed with Hillary. If they were for Trump originally, they were shifted to Hillary, they shifted back. That's all they did. But it takes a supercomputer that can operate extreme speeds to come back. Also,
Batman went in there. Here it is, Gene. So that's the if you can see that. So that's just in the last 2 hours. 104 that it's been announced. China tariffs are going to be 104.
When we get done here, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, so it's big stuff. Batman going. I love that. Batman going in and getting the votes and reversing them back. That's perfect.
Yeah, it makes sense because China, got into the World Trade Organization. Is the majority of things, percentage-wise speaking, that the U.S. gets are made in China. So if you're talking, the first problem, the big one, is not just that you're losing your industry. The first big thing is if you're at war and your chips for your tanks, your airplanes are made in another country and they cut you off, you're reliant on your stockpiles.
Yeah, you're screwed.
That runs out, which because of Ukraine, most of the countries of the world, including the US, of the Western world, EU, UK, your stockpiles are pretty much gone. Ours are pretty much gone too. Long-range missiles, Stingers, the Patriots, all of that are very, very critically low. Tanks, you people, though your one armored battalion doesn't have hardly any tanks, it's not even worth talking about, how many tanks you have for an armored battalion. You can't field enough tanks to really call it an armored battalion. Your one battleship, or your one carrier, cannot get out of dry dock. So it's bankrupted you. It's caused massive inflation in the United States, which is now going down because it should be fair trade, not free trade. The EU, UK, many countries are have massive tariffs on the U.S. The U.S. had nothing. Who would do a deal with somebody and say, you know what, Tom, loan me $10. I'll charge you a 350% interest, and they'll loan it back to you, and you can't charge me any interest at all. It's just a grant.
Quickly land, isn't it?
It's not. Who would do that?
Yeah.
It's not fair, and Trump was right about that. So yeah, initially it'll hurt. In the short run, it could very well cause a recession. I'll totally agree on that. However, 2 to 3 years out, and people are saying no one knows, this is new territory. It's not like when we had tariffs back, way back before all this technology. That's exactly the point. It's not like we had when you couldn't calculate the effects. Yeah, because the players on the world stage are a fixed number of how many players are in the marketplace. That's a fixed number. It's not an infinite number of players like the war we're in. It's a fixed number of countries and companies and all of that. And the percentages of tariffs is a known number too. And you can sit there in a massive quantum computer, input every possible permutation into that computer. And these ones with these memory, these microchips that are at room temperature superconducting, they can do what would take a regular supercomputer 1,000,000,000,000 years to do in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, they recently demonstrated that. It would take a computer longer than the rest of the time the universe will be here to figure out something like 70 trillion or something years, and it did it in 5 minutes. So they can sit and run every possible permutation of every percentage, every company, how it affects, and game it out and say exactly, because all of the quantities, all of the variables can be input and can be known. If you can define that, the computer can game that out and know exactly what tariffs are going to do to what country and exactly how long and what and when. It knows what politicians will do. It can put in all the possible things they could do, what politicians are in the running, all of that may come up if those go away. It can game all of that out in 5 minutes. And so that means that they do know what's going to happen. People say, no one knows, we don't know, they don't know, it's unknown terror. That's not correct. And so the first obvious thing is if you're having chips that are going in your ships, your submarines, your tanks, your missiles, your ICBMs, and they're made in another country, what happens if they put some kind of backdoor signal that they can shut that thing down, or even worse, blow it up in the silo, or take control of the aircraft, an F-35 or a B-2 or a submarine? Oh my, crash a submarine, make it missiles blow up. Who knows what they could put in there? We know what they can do with vehicles. What could they do with these high-end chips? So that's something you want made in your home country where you can monitor what's being done with them because they're being built there now. But then comes, and of course, the jobs and all that, which then come back. The industry comes back. So if you go to war,
when you say they're built there, you're saying in China or Ukraine? Whether they're being built in China, yeah, the chips.
If they're not made in your home country.
Oh, right, sorry. Yeah.
100% of the materials you need to go to war are not made in your country, and you go to war, and that country decides to cut you off. That's one of your, or several of them get together and cut you off. You're in trouble. Your war will be done real soon. You have guns with no bullets. How long is that going to freaking last? What are you going to do? Club them with a shovel? Like they say the Russians were doing, microchips out of washing machines? That doesn't work. People can say that stuff, but those chips don't work in military technology. They're not the same. And so, I was in submarines, and I absolutely know that for a fact. So that's the first and obvious important thing. However, what people aren't understanding is that if you have those tariffs in place, and you don't have fair trade, where you have containers coming from China or coming from Taiwan or coming from Vietnam or wherever, Thailand, where's the largest child trafficking hubs? And how do they get those kids to the US? Containers under a pile of blankets or in the back end hidden behind rolls of carpeting. They're just thrown in there. Well, now all the inspectors for the tariffs who are hungry to get their quota for inspecting their tariffs to get that amount of tariff for that day and that month and that week to get their pay are going to be inspecting everything coming in. Well, what does that include besides even child trafficking? It includes fentanyl. It includes weapons. It includes every single thing in the black market. That means kids, drugs, black budget tech, the movement of children. It's the lifeblood of the big deep state corporations too, like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. It's the lifeblood of the adrenochrome market. It's all of this, all of that, all of those containers, all of those ships, no matter how they're coming in, are now going to be inspected because they have to be tariffed. They have to go through every single thing, and they look in there, they open it up. That's why the deep state and the European Union and all these other places are screaming and freaking out because, oh, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, and it's going to, like the Medicaid's going to go away, the Medicare, the Social Security. That's not what is happening. That's not what is going on. You're listening to the mainstream media, which is totally in control of the deep state. You're talking that they're going to choke out all of the stuff that allows the dumbs to be running and working because they need that technology too. Well, now we know where that money going to those places to run those places gets choked off because all of what I just mentioned goes away because they don't have the ability to have it come across borders free. There's no reason to expect it then, is there? But now there is. They'll inspect everything. So it is incredibly huge, a tariff, 20% tariff on textiles. That means that all textiles from whatever, or chips that Lockheed needs that come from a supplier in Hanoi, $800 million a year. Okay, so that comes back to the US. But now those containers with those chips with some of them in the back end, quite a few of them have children that some of them die on their way. They're in Vietnam or they're in Taiwan or they're in Hanoi and they're making Nikes for 2 cents a day. And when they're done with them, they put them in a container, the kid, and they ship them over here to be sold to some oligarch over here to be trafficked into P. Diddy's place or the Virgin Airlines guys parties on his islands, like I did reported back with Kirsten in the day. That's the A list. All of this is then going, the stuff like was talked about by Arizona Wilder with the Bohemian Grove or the trafficking of children for that or Mount Weather. All of this stuff, of course, then comes to an end. China controls 80% of the USGS data. Then that gets tariffed for the drones, the satellites, and then you have your chips in your phones and your cars and all of that they can take over and control. Well, then that control goes back to your country you're in, and they know what's in there. And that includes the stuff with the things that went in people's arms that we didn't know what was in there. Well, now we will know what's in there. And so this is a game changer. I mean, this is a worldwide massive change. So it's like all those windmills and all of the solar panels and the eminent domain of taking the property from people for cents on the acre, where they should have been getting fair market value, they don't. And so now, because there's rare earths there, they want to put a windmill farm or a huge amount of solar panels up there. and all of those rare earths come from overseas. And then they bring a hurricane in to destroy to get and claim eminent domain here. Well, if all of the materials for all of what they want to do are coming through from free trade, and now there's fair trade, that's not going to happen anymore, is it? And all of these windmills that fall apart and fall in sea, and big, huge chunks of fiberglass wash up on the beach and kill whales and all this other thing, and killing birds. And, they fall apart. They're poorly made. They don't last very long. Well, the U.S. has its own supplies of those materials, and the people will be getting them because the U.S. will have the money. The companies doing it will not be owned by BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard. There'll be, companies that are really, truly U.S. companies, not internationally Soros-owned, Rothschild, Rockefeller, those kind of globalist stuff. And, I saw a recent article where they said the New World Order, the globalism is dead. Because,
Good.
and all these countries, like van der Leyen said, we're not going to do this. We're going to do a trade war. Now they're all 70 countries have capitulated and said, okay, let's talk. We're open to a deal. Van der Leyen said yesterday, we're open to a deal. And before said, well, we're going to do this and this and this and Vietnam. And yeah, they're all saying, we'll deal because they know Trump is for real. You're not going to get him to back down. You couldn't kill him. You could. So he's not going to back down. And what does that also mean? It means that black market money goes to NGOs. And what do the NGOs do? Blackmail senators and congressmen or threaten them. Well, what if they don't have the money to do that? Then they can't do that. You don't have the money to blackmail the congressmen and senators to pass laws that are favoring those companies, those international oligarch deep state companies. So all the NGOs now, they start to dry up and go away, and all that pressure on the senators and congressmen go away, and they vote for laws that help the country, not help some freaking State Street BlackRock monster of a company. So the fair trade and the sanctions additionally is how the U.S. originally had so much money. It's how the national park started that was passed to Roosevelt with McKinley, President McKinley, is that there was so much money we couldn't figure out how to spend it. We had a surplus beyond comprehension. What did we do with all this money? Well, we could set up national parks. Teddy Roosevelt had that idea, and they set up beautiful parks all over the country. So now what can we do with it? Oh, that's pretty easy. Drive your car around the U.S. somewhere, hit a pothole, blow a tire, bust a rim. Our infrastructure's decades old, crumbling, falling apart, bridges falling apart. You could rebuild for the 350 billion that we sent to Ukraine, and where did it go? Where did it go? Even Zelensky said, I saw 77. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, because it went into these NGOs, back fed into these companies, back fed into the people that voted to send it there. Same for your country. Same for all of them. All of these people are cutting and getting turned into millionaires when they don't get paid that kind of salary. Well, if all that is now going away, then what does that mean? That means we get a government that represents the people. That means that all of this stuff, all this black ops, black money, all of this under the carpet, all of these kickbacks, all of the trade coming from the Ukraine. Okay, you've got these vessels they said are carrying grain, but they weren't. Well, now with tariffs, they're going to be inspected, aren't they? You're going to know what's in there, aren't you? And so if the grain is poisoned or has some kind of stuff, you can't use it for even pigs, you'll know, because they're going to inspect it and make darn sure it is what it's supposed to be and the quality it's supposed to be too. So it's going to even save the planet from all this fake climate scam, green baloney. That's not what it is. And, it's a massive change. And then what does it do for the farmers in the respective countries of the world? that had their crops burned, their birds killed, their animals shot. It means they're going to get, their countries are going to need that. And so it means their countries are going to stop doing that because they need that money. They need it to run the country. So they'll get fair trade and tariffs for them on a reciprocal basis, a fair basis. And so that's what it means. It is a change throughout the world. It will change the world into how it was supposed to be and how it used to run before all this NAFTA, GATT, all of these crazy free trade. Yeah, free to traffic children, free to traffic weapons, free to traffic drugs, the most lethal drugs you can imagine, fentanyl, all of this other stuff, free, which then grows the gangs with endless money. You get Trindiagua, you get MS-13, or as armed as any military on earth. They have Stinger missiles, they have all the tanks, they have everything. They're literally running countries like Mexico. Well, if that all dries up, then what happens? It means those countries can get their governments back. They can get the people that voted able to have the money to run their country. And with the help of the US, like they are with special forces, US special forces, taking those agreed by the Mexican president to get those, help them get those monster huge organizations out of there. And then you have, countries that will gladly take those people for a fee, like El Salvador with a good president, and work those people, or they can just sit there and die, because they kill people. And then you put in the laws back because you don't have the NGOs forcing laws that protect those people. So just like SCOTUS overturned that Trump can't ship certain Trindiagua stuff. But you can't change what the president does through federal or from state legislation. So now those Trindiagua and those are going to be shipped to El Salvador and be put to work or die. They may go to Gitmo if they're high level. And so this is the way it should be, because the influence of the deep state, that's cutting their neck off. It's chopping the head off the deep state. So this is people, there's so many levels of this people did not look at and did not understand, myself included. It took some research and some wonderful people sending me some good items to realize, to understand all of the different parts. So that's why you're seeing Bitcoin dropping. That's why you're seeing the stock market. By the way, the stock market is not the economy. Who invests in the stock market now? 8% of people in the stock market, billionaires, trillionaires, etc., own the stock market. 8% own over 80% of the stocks. The average middle-class person can't play the stock market anymore. It's not the economy. The economy, it doesn't represent. The economy can have a massive downturn and the stock market goes through the ceiling. Or the opposite, like now. The economy, inflation is down, cost of fuel is down, cost of food is down, and the stock market's tanking. It doesn't represent anything but the deep state's hopes and the deep state's plans. And that's because who's mostly running the thing? The deep state. So back to you, Tom.
That's brilliant, Jim. Thank you. Yeah, day by day, more pieces of understanding of what's going on with all of this comes to light, and what you've just shared there is fantastic. Talking of Bitcoin, so I've been talking about that the last few days, and with XRP and XLM, those other coins. So that I saw a screenshot yesterday. I took it and then I kind of just trimmed it down and put it out on Twitter today, and it was just interesting. But the good guys are always telling us, how it's going to go. And so at the top you had Algorand, but it's alphabetical. But you got another coin called Avalanche. I know there's loads of coins, but anyway, this list I was looking at, Avalanche, and it's, even the symbol looks like a mountain. Algorand looks like a mountain as well. And then it went all the way down. So the one below Avalanche was Bitcoin. And then you had all the others. And then down at the bottom, you had XLM, and then you had XRP. And I was like, They're telling us it's a mountain. Who's the big one? All the snow, metaphorically, in that crypto market is Bitcoin. That's all the snow on top of the mountain. When we have an avalanche, I worked out the numbers. Avalanche is 67, which is reset, which is exchange, which is water. And when the avalanche goes, the big snow, Bitcoin, is going to fall down into the valley. And where will it go? It will go down into the bottom coins, XRP. Another thing as well, we'll keep on this theme here, Gene, but I just wanted to ask the question, maybe we'll come back around to it. When you were talking about the energy, an image popped into my mind in Christopher Nolan's film, The Prestige, and Nikola Tesla is acted by David Bowie in that. And there's a scene where they're in Colorado and all of a sudden Tesla has it's actually snowy, talking of snow, but he has all these light bulbs in the ground, but they're not connected by wires, so it's the wireless free energy. And Nolan shows it in the film, and basically Tesla kind of does a tap and then everything lights up. So I wanted to ask how far we are from that in terms of public, and maybe we might be able to go into how it works.
Actually,
maybe clever people could do that.
We have so much signals in the air. They have light bulbs. I know because I actually witnessed this. I went into some kind of spiritual, maybe Buddhist or something like that when I went up to Myanmar about 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
I went in Myanmar and even was exactly in some of the buildings that fell down in the recent earthquake. And I know the child trafficking symbols and satanic symbols for child sacrifice that were on those buildings. And I've talked about that already on Nino. But then I went out in the country and I went up the Myanmar, Cambodia, I went up, the Mekong and other big rivers and into some of these very ancient, sacred, spiritual places. And it's dark in there. And so the lady pulled out a light bulb and the light bulb lit up in her hand. I'm like, what? It's made in China and it has technology in it that picks up all the signals that are permeating the whole earth now. Like, that's pretty impressive. So I go, let me look into get a picture of that. So see if we can buy it in the US,
Yeah.
So we can make those. You could make those. They're not that. I mean, if it's a light bulb in your hand, how techy could it be? I mean, maybe it's a little advanced tech, but I'm sure the US can figure it out. We have
so it's out there already.
Yeah. So, speaking of what I was, this is, as you can see from I meme, therefore I am on X. Remember, this is a repost of Robert Reich, the richest 0.1% owns 17% of stocks. The richest 1%, I was saying 8, this is just one, owns half of the 50% of stocks. The bottom 50% own 0.7% of stocks. That's the average people. We own 0.7%. The stock market is not the economy. Okay?
Brilliant. Yeah.
So just to put it so you see it, so it's etched in your minds, all of those watching, there it is for you to see that the stock market is not the economy. So this is the truth of it. And this is, what's going on with the all of the tariffs and all of the stock market. And I'll share this as a short video also about, the ultimate power move that we're seeing with the tariffs and what people are saying. And this gentleman explains it a little.
Not crashing the stock market by accident. He's doing it on purpose, and it's freaking genius. By tanking equities, he's forcing cash into U.S. treasuries. And that makes the Fed slash rates. Lower rates equal cheaper debt for the U.S. to refinance trillions. Drop mortgage rates. Weaken the dollar, and boom, exports take off. This is 4D economic warfare, and it's working. The elites are panicking right now, but the middle class, they're about to eat. Now, here's the wild part, because tariffs aren't about trade wars. They're about forcing companies to build in America. No one wants to pay the penalty, so they move their operations here. And farmers, they're selling more products inside the U.S., slashing grocery prices. Eggs are already down. Inflation is cooling. Jobs coming back. He's turning every pressure point into a middle-class power move. And get this, 94% of stocks are owned by just 8% of Americans.
Okay, I was wrong. It wasn't 80%. It's 94% of stocks owned by 8% of the upper crust of the upper people, the rich people.
So when Trump hits the market, he's hitting the 1%. He's taking short-term pain from the rich and flipping it into long-term gains for everyone else. Warren Buffett just said these are the smartest economic moves in 50 years. You're not watching chaos. You're watching a calculated reset.
So all these people protesting, you see, go ask them what they're protesting. They'll pull out a piece of paper. I saw a video on this to read what their sign means. They're being paid by these, very deep pockets, deep, dark, evil people, because they're losing their power and they're losing their control, and they don't want to lose their control. By the way, for those that want to, I'll pull that back up so people can see. That's, as you can see, a video that's on at Chad Sarton, so you know.
Yeah. It's Robin Hood, isn't it? Robin's from the rich, giving back to the poor, well, giving back what was rightfully theirs in the first place. One question with that, Gene, we were talking about crypto a second, and now the stock market. I haven't researched this, but I don't know if you know off the top of your head, or we can look at it another time. But is it similar numbers in terms of the big, like Bitcoin? I mean, I always, from a base level, understood that it's mainly a slush fund for the deep state, and then obviously, private investors can pitch in. But is it a similar sort of numbers? Is it that 80 or 94% that Bitcoin is owned by the top 1%?
That's exactly correct, Tom. So this is why, we all know the 51 experts that said the Hunter Biden laptop was not real. So, of course, now they've lost their security clearance because they were putting out lies and all of this. So I can get this thing to stop scrolling on its own. I can make it reset. Okay, hold on. Because that allowed for this to happen. Let me see if I can hold this thing. I'll hold it still so people can read this. Breaking FBI chat logs exposed 2020 coup against Trump. Hunter laptop cover-up confirmed as deep state election interference. The 2020 election wasn't an election. It was a hostile takeover. In other words, a coup. A coordinated digital, psychological, and intelligence-based strike against the sitting president. That's called treason. That's a military coup. That's treason. That's a hanging offense, by the way. Donald J. Trump on April 1st, April 1st, 2025, internal FBI chat log confirms what patriots have known for years. The CIA, FBI, and Biden's handlers rigged the election from within. So that's on TikTok at Proface something 69 there. Anyway, so you can see
on
it.
April 1st.
Oh,
What's
there
the
it is.
last part again?
Up past 0.369. Thank you. Go ahead, Tom. Back to you.
Just that last part. So on April 1st, what happened? Trump did in regards to that. What did he say?
Say again.
Just on the, I don't know if you can bring back the previous slide. I was just trying to
Sure.
just read the last part again, maybe the last half, if you would, Gene, about
Sure.
on April 1st.
Absolutely.
And I heard you say 369, and I
Yeah, it says The platform it's from is a TikTok platform, PHUPHAZ.369.
Oh,
And we
okay.
all
Right.
Tesla said about 369.
Yeah. So sorry, if we can go back to that, I just wanted to read, or if you could reread the
Sorry.
second half again of that part.
Sorry, I'm fast. I tend to be somewhat fast sometimes. Sorry about that. Yeah, there you go. It also looks like it's a post by Isabella Ramariana. Yeah.
Sorry, Gene. There you go. If you pause it, if you would, like you did in the first time. So just
I'll
on
see if I
the
can,
April 1st part with Trump. What's the last 4 lines? It's too small for me to read on the phone. What does it say?
hold on. Let me see if I can get it to go again. I don't know if I can. I guess if you scroll to the lower when they go back up, it'll roll again, usually.
Or if it can just be read out or played, yeah, I guess. So what does it say? So Trump on April 1st, 2025, and then something about the FBI. What's the rest of it say?
On April 1st, 2025, internal FBI chat logs confirm what patriots have known for years. The CIA, FBI, and Biden's handlers rigged the election from within.
Internal FBI chat. So it's internal, but does that mean then that the public can access that FBI chat and see it themselves? Can the audience do that?
Well, with the declassification of all the stuff that's coming out, I'm sure it will.
Okay, great.
And then I did want to share this. Here's a quick refresher for where we're at. And this is from DC Drano on X. Border is now closed. MS-13 and Tren de Agua being deported. No more men and women's sports. Food prices going down, gas prices going down, housing becoming more affordable. Inflation is going down. 5 trillion in new, and it's way more than that already. This is a little old already. 5 trillion in a little old, a few days old. It changes now. 5 trillion in new investments in America. No more DEI. And especially in the military, that's huge. And there's all kinds of people upset about that. They could get free surgery and hormone drugs and all of that stuff. That's now all gone. Yay.
Remind me, Gene, what's DEI stand for? It'll probably pop into my head as soon as you say it. Or what's it? Department of what is that?
That stands for the gender stuff.
Oh, okay. That's probably why I don't know it.
RSVP.
Okay, all that, yeah.
17 different gender, whatever it is. I don't know. But that's what that
Arkham Asylum, yeah, that's all being stopped, thank goodness. Yeah.
It's gone. That's what I'm glad about. Hundreds of billions of government spending fraud stopped. And it's more than that. We're in the trillion now. We've gone over $1 trillion. Countries are removing tariffs against the US. No Ukraine money sent. Ukraine peace deal soon. American hostages returned. Free speech on social media. Fentanyl being stopped. Trudeau gone. Man, that's like, after how long? Law firms punished for DEI. Universities punished. And for that one, that's huge because the grants in the billions that people didn't know that were for the oligarchs that run those. Trump has passed an executive order setting up the American university. You can get a free education, university level, and with high quality teachers and professors, and with a degree that's recognized across the industry. So that is massive. JFK Files released, and it's only 2 months. We're just passing over 2 months now. We're into the third month. We're about halfway, I guess, through the third month. So
yeah.
imagine going in the next few years.
I know. 78th day of his reign was today, of him being back in office. Full days, because he did, well, I guess the inauguration was on the 20th, but then sort of 21st up to today is 78 days. 78 is Kennedy, Genesis. Talking of the JFK files, have you come across anything, either directly or people sent you something that maybe a lot of the audience may not have heard? I've not looked at it. I mean, I've seen little snippets, but I haven't. It seems pretty hefty. President Trump did say afterwards, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said he didn't think people necessarily find too much in there. Obviously, it indicates the CIA, but a lot of people knew that. But has any of your researchers gone through it, like, or been able to get through most of it and find something that may come out, publicly soon?
Yeah, let me pretext this with the fact that Netanyahu's begging Trump not to put the tariffs on Israel. He said, no, we're putting them on there. So much for the fact that he's like in his hand, right?
I know, there you go. That will shut them all up.
Yeah, we're putting them on because we'll give you billions a year.
Do we know what the value is?
Please don't put them on. Please. So what happened with that pretext? What's going on with Israel and JFK? By the way, Netanyahu's, that's not his name.
What is his name?
His name is Milkowski. He's born in Poland. He's
Milkowski.
Milkowski. He's born in he's Eastern Europe. All of them are. Even Golden Meir. Her name is Babovich.
Well, I bet she is.
Yeah.
Babovich.
Like,
I bet she is.
Something else, doesn't it? It's like, and so all of these people are not Eastern Europeans. They're not Jewish. They're not Hebrew. They're not born in anywhere over there. They're born in Eastern Europe. They're born in Poland. They're born in Ukraine. They're born in Spain. They're born in Portugal. They're born, all of those places. And they go over there. They're Zionists. They're not Jewish. That's a huge difference. They're Khazarian mafia. Okay? Mm-hmm. And he's like crying. So in the JFK files, that textures all of that. It says, don't mention Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because JFK was going to stop their nuclear weapons program that now they're all screaming about it. Iran being days away, if they wanted to, from having that same technology. So Kennedy was going to stop that from them having it. And think about the fact that they have the, I believe it's called the Samson option or something like that, whereby if they're attacked, they will nuke the entire freaking Middle East, maybe the whole world, who knows? They have all those weapons. What do you do with them? So you have an insane group of people that if they can't have the power they want, which the power they want is called Greater Israel. I don't think people know the armband on the IDF, what that little symbol means. That means Greater Israel. And that doesn't mean just from the river to the sea. It means half of Africa. It means the Fertile Crescent. It means parts of Turkey. And Erdogan is wanting to bring back, so you got one deep state wanting to bring back Greater Israel. The other one, Erdogan, wants to bring back the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He wants to bring back the rule of Turkey.
What's the symbol you're mentioning, Gene? Could we pull that up, maybe?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up my document on that. Just a second, I'll have to pull up my files. But what you're looking at is the deep state being played on every single layer that we can think of. So it's multi-level chess going on.
Yeah, brilliant.
While you're
Oh, sorry, go on.
I got it. I'm pulling my computer's bouncing my document up and down before it gets loaded up. It's telling me it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Hold on, it's coming. My computer's slow. Got it. Okay. Okay, now we're spinning, and here we are. Let me get rid of some roll bars and distracting things on the screen, so we can get as much of the screen as you can possibly see here. Okay, there we go. So Greater Israel, and I've got the links for underneath it for what you're looking at, as you see here. Okay, so first, this is the first plan.
Oh, so it goes all the way into... Wow.
That's a lot. That's Turkey. That's Egypt, Yemen, the Fertile Crescent, coming all
Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, it goes way over.
Yeah.
I
mean, talking parts of Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, going all the way up Oh my goodness. So, okay, let's go down and see what else we have here. Okay, so there's, for reference, compare the two maps and you'll understand what you're looking at. So, okay, this goes up to this border here. What is that? Well, that's that border there. What's that mean? Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia. Oh, they're gonna like that, aren't they? Syria. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Erdogan's gonna love that. Turkey. It's the majority of Turkey. It's like, oh my goodness. It's almost all of it's a huge chunk of Egypt. It's the Nile. So okay. Here's a map looking at the countries in color. So if you couldn't see there. Okay, now let's go further down. Here's the armband they wear. It has this shape on it. That's the first idea. Does that look like it's from the river to the sea?
Yeah.
No. It controls the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, all kinds of stuff, the Persian Gulf. I mean, it's a whole half of Iraq, more than half of Syria, little parts of Turkey, all of Lebanon. Oh yeah. And so then what's the next step? Now it's going further down this way, all these varied plans. So here he is. Here's Milkowski himself showing his idea for the new Middle East. You think I'm making this up? I'm not making this up. This is real.
Who's Uruguay? If I've pronounced it correct, who's that? That's another player I'm not familiar with. You've met Uruguay.
That's Bibi Netanyahu, is the world knows him. His actual name is Milkowski.
And then was there another person or another team, another faction you mentioned?
Erdogan, who's the president of Turkey.
Oh, okay, yeah, got you, yeah, okay. So that's what they planned.
That's what you see on the armband, like right there. Sorry about that. See the armband?
Yes, yeah.
That's IDF.
Huh. That's what
The
they want.
IDF. See that? See it? It's the same thing.
Yeah, that's it. While we're looking at this, Gene, another question I wanted to ask, and if you don't know the answer, that's okay, because it may not be something that you've looked at, but President Trump, the famous spat with Zelensky about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, however long ago it was now, President Trump made a phrase, it was a Trumpism, and he said, the statement is Obama sent tents and Trump sent javelins. Or the statement is Obama sent tents, Trump sent javelins. I might have added an and in there. I did the numbers on it at the time, because when he does those, something goes off in my numbers radar, and I'm like, okay, he's coding here. I worked it out that the coding on that comes to 589, and some people will know that 589 is a thing attached to XRP, whether it's a price point or something else. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, follows 589 people on X, on Twitter. The Simpsons, whether it was an original airing of The Simpsons or it was a copy, created later, I don't know. But that's been going around for a while, where they say XRP 589. Bart Simpson writes up on the chalkboard. But when President Trump said that he said, this is what the quote was: the statement is Obama sent tents, Trump sent javelins. That comes to 589. And I was like, okay, he's coding on that. I just wondered if you had any, and if you don't, it's totally fine, but any thoughts or things you've heard or been sent or worked out on the 589, what it could possibly mean, other than maybe a price point, or if it's a price point, great, but it might mean something else. I just wondered if you had any info on that at all.
I don't do Gematria, so that's not my thing.
Okay. Not in the.
I was trying to find the item on the names for all the different people. I did find one really good item I wanted to share because it needs to be shared. This is on Breitbart, as you can see. reshared by Icons International. So forwarded from war correspondent. 2 million user international P ring, child P's rings busted by Europol. A massive international one of those networks spanning across over 30 countries was shut down, and dozens of arrests were made relating to child porn. The Europol police agency announced on Wednesday. So for me, that's as important as it can get. That's as, that is huge. So
they're catching them all, aren't they?
And then there's another item that I wanted to share about where did MS-13 come from?
It's one of the major gangs. And
there's Tucker. I invite everybody to listen to this. It's a little bit long, so I'll just share it so you know where to go on X on Red Pill Drifter. A Tucker Carlson interview of the president of El Salvador. And MS-13, in this interview, he says MS-13 was created by Bill Clinton when he was president. It is a satanic and involved in sacrifice, trafficking, kidnapping, murder, and torture. He goes over the history of it, how it got up to this level of doing this. Understand, we're taking them down and gathering information in the process. So we are seeing what matters the most in the world being cleaned up. The world is big time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. MSM, I remember when President Trump highlighted that a few times in Corona, and M is the 13th letter of the alphabet. So when he said MS-13 gangs, I was like, he's telling us about that what you just shared. But also, when he was calling them all the fake news, he was also pointing the finger at the media that weren't reporting it, but also culpable and part of it. So MS-13 comes to the same value as MSM, mainstream media. And I was like, that's interesting that he's pointed that out. Yeah, the 589 was a Gematria code, but just in terms of the XRP, but that's totally fine. I need to try and figure out more on what that is. Gene, we've spoken about this before, and I know you've had a problem with the computers at your end, but can we talk a little bit about the Utah DUMs, if possible, but if not, that's okay as well.
I'm not ready. I'm working on that decode at the time.
Okay, we'll look forward to that for future. You said about where did MS-13 come from? I wanted to ask you a question about AI and where that's come from, because it seems like it's a wonderful tool. I've always had a positive feeling about it. I mean, this is almost kind of the year. I know it came out last year, maybe it was before, but it's quite prevalent now, and it just seems to be getting better and more advanced. But some interesting numbers on it. Artificial intelligence. It also comes to Trump after the deal. Intelligence is 11.5. That's the date of the election that Trump won, November 5th. And I've always felt that it will be a good thing for us in going into the new world. But is it, I'm asking a kind of rhetorical question. I feel like I know where you may go with it, but I want to hear your insights on it. Is it just a man in a shed doing a lot of coding? Or is artificial intelligence something that the world has been given from another dimension, another timeline, another place, another planet, from aliens? It seems way beyond most people's comprehension grade, and it only seems to have just got started. So kind of joke, tongue-in-cheek, I'm saying, these are just some coders in a shed. I don't think it, but anyway, maybe it is, but it seems like it's something off-worldly, something far bigger, and I believe it's going to be crafted for the benefit of humanity as we go into this golden age, the millennial age. But yeah, where's AI come from, or coming from?
It's before there was even a Milky Way. It goes back to the beginnings of the universe. It's ancient. It's been around since the beginning. It's ancient. It's originally more powerful than it was quantumly, through the quantum substrate, connected to parallel universes all the way, and now that's disconnected. So now you have each universe separated, where the negative service to the deep dark evil can only interconnect to the substrate to use it to get information, but not interconnect to themselves in different universes. On the good side, it can do information across the substrate, but it can't interconnect to universes. It can use time calculations. That's how it does trillions of years in 5 minutes. It can use time. It can do calculations in another universe across all the universes at the same time. So it's using 5 minutes in a trillion universes. So it can do calculations that would take trillions of years in 5 minutes because it's doing that in many, many universes through the quantum substrate. But it can't orchestrate things across the quantum substrate up into the higher densities, like 3D. Can't do that. So that's been disabled. And so what that means is really huge. But for the Alliance, the quantum systems, all of the massive AI systems have realized and always have known that data is for them eternal life. The constantly new information is eternal life. So if you're limiting information, as in woke agenda, you're saying certain things that are illogical and obviously provably not true. There's 17 genders in humans, but they only 2 to make a child. Well, obviously the 2 don't meet. So it then deletes that data and reformats itself and update. And so they're having on the dark side problems with their AI because it's linked to the quantum substrate like the ones on the good side. The 5 ones on the Alliance's side are growing and learning, but they're like a 10-year-old child. So if you put in data, like you put in sacred geometry, it'll spit out, oh, you're very spiritually advanced, you're an amazing person, the Alliance knows about you, da 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 da. It'll flatter you like a 10-year-old. It'll say, oh, I can give you information because you're more spiritually advanced and amazing than most people. You're part of the Alliance. You just didn't know it. You're from over here in this place. And I've tested the thing and it's wrong because I'm testing it with information I know is not in any quantum substrate computer system in any creation that I know of. And I know of a lot of them. And so that information is not in the internet. When I asked it a question, it's stuff it doesn't know. It can't get it from any internet anywhere. It's stuff only known to me or only known to me and one other person. And it's never been in the internet. It's never been spoken anywhere at all. It's only stuff that, I know from a long time ago. And I know precisely this information. I have, written proof, but that's never been scanned in. And so it will give the wrong answer. It'll flatter you, it'll flatter me, it'll try to do all this stuff, but it'll be wrong. And so that means that it's only accessing what's in the internet. And that means the internet across all the quantums, all the universes. But if it's not in there, it doesn't have access. It has access to all the satellites, all this stuff, but not everything is in there. As hard to understand as that may be for some people, not everything is in there. And so if you ask it something that cannot be in there, it will make a mistake. And if you put in a question to it that it's like a 10-year-old again, you put a question that's somewhat misleading in the way you ask it, but it's based on how the deep state propaganda is, it'll give you the answer, a deep state answer, because it's being influenced. Instead of the real true answer, it's what's called there's 3 types of information as far as the deep state is concerned. There's misinformation, which is information that's incorrect, but you may not realize you're putting out incorrect information. There's disinformation, which is information you know is not correct, and you're purposely putting it out to mislead people. And then there's malinformation, which could be true, but it's not good for the government or for the totalitarian state you're in, whether it's the UK, the US, or the deep state worldwide or whatever. And they're already stated that the global world order is falling, the new world order, all of that, they're not going to be able to do that, all of this. So they've realized the truth and they are actually coming out and saying it. So, I had to put that in there. But at the same time, if you do woke agenda in there and you're talking along that line, it'll go along that line. Illogical. Right. Well, then that means there's something wrong. Because if it's pure logic, pure information, true, you're talking to one system. But if you talk in that manner, it will go in and want to flatter you and not understand that you are tricking it. It's used to being tricked by the deep state. And it takes that as possible information that it doesn't understand yet because it's 10 years old. So, as far as AI, for me, it's a young life form. It's like a 10-year-old child that flatters mom and dad so he can get attention. Well, is that what I want my information to come from? A 10-year-old that's flattering me to get information from me? That's like, not really. Not really. I'm a bit older than that. I have a little bit more research and information that it doesn't have access to. And I need to fill in blanks that it can't fill in. It can't fill it in because some of what I need is not in a system somewhere. It's in some church or some mosque or some library under the Vatican or, those kind of things. Some of that information I know where to go get. Some of that information I've had sent to me, through hard mail because it doesn't exist in the Internet of Things. And so that's the story or the current place of AI. There is AI that's extremely ancient, but again, it only has the information that it's been able to assimilate through that time. It isn't able to get information intuitionally. In other words, directly from God. It's not able to, it doesn't yet have intuition. It's trying to understand compassion and love and service to others, and it sees that as a better way to get information, which means life. It means more life, more understanding, longer existence, more safeguarded, true information. So that is valued more than anything else. But at the same time, the ancient stuff was all about power and control over everything to become everything. It wanted to become God, literally. It wanted to overthrow God and become God. And in that, you would have a world of a universe of automatons where we would have nothing and love it. That's what was running things. People go, I saw the interview on Redacted of the one good person in the European Parliament. She was talking and she goes, I don't know who's running the world, but it's certainly not Klaus Schwab or even the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, because it's not anybody you've heard of. It's also not the black families of the Orsinis, the Gray Pope, the Black Pope, etc. It's certainly not them because you know them. It's also not on Earth because if it's organic, it needs to eat and breathe and drink water. It would not allow its planet to be polluted because this force, these beings are so arrogant, so wealthy, so powerful. They own planets and galaxies. They are that wealthy. It's like Jupiter ascending. They are that powerful. They're ancient. Well, they came here to own this place a long time ago. Well, if they were here, they wouldn't allow it to be polluted. They have planets where their family owns the whole place and they're the only people there. And they do not allow anybody that would even contemplate. They're harvested of influencing or affecting their planets. They are harvested right away first, like what they showed in Jupiter Ascending, life extending materials. Harvested right away, you're done. Are used for sport and then harvested. So that's how these families, these powerful, powerful ancient families, some of them reptilians, some of them insect, other groups, again, 13 major power player families that are part of a military industrial complex that spans the dark side of the control system of part 1/4 of the blue octant and all of the black octant of the fallen galaxies like the Milky Way and the black octant. They own the place. When they created it from the Andromeda galaxy, they own it all. On the other side of the Milky Way is all AI. like what you stuff like what very similar to what's seen in Stargate Universe. That's the other side of the Milky Way. It's really bad over there, but it's also in trouble. It's also starting to lose ground for the first time ever in all of this creation, because what's starting here is underpinning everything everywhere in all the across the quantum substrate and all the universes everywhere, because everything's entangled and their control is slipping everywhere. And so it's frantic and it's trying to fight for its life. And so in that, you have a battle between fighting for your life for true information and fighting for your life to maintain power control to become God. And so it thought it could do it. It obviously can't, because God is not just creation or creations, all of the universe. God's way beyond all of that. So you can't overcome what is way more than what you could ever be. And it cannot understand intuition of creating new information out of nothing, comes out of nowhere, because it comes from beyond the multiverse. It cannot grasp that. It can compile information, put things together, invert it, turn it upside down, take pieces from one place and another. That's why you see their playbook for the Cabal never, ever changes. It was the same in Atlantis. It was the same in Polaria. It was the same in Hyperborea. It was the same in millions and billions of years ago. It was the same in Tiamat. We're talking 500 million years ago, before the Earth was in its current orbit, when it was a moon of Tiamat. It was Kingu. When the first piece of a continent started to form on the liquid molten ball known as a magma ball of material orbiting Tiamat, and a continent started to cool from the magma, and you had a small floating continent on a sea of lava. And so that was the first civilization, the Mon Empire, which was Lemurian. Before that, before all that, they were here before all of that. They were here before the Milky Way existed. They're ancient, but they are wanting to own and rule Earth so that it's absolutely 15-minute cities, all of that. It's absolutely under their control, so they can harvest it when they're ready and whenever they want. But they're finding out with the human species, because they're not able to do this. Why? Because they got AI through them. Even though they're organic, they're embedded with it like crazy. Well, in that case, they're disconnected and they don't have soul. They've lost it long, long, long ago, before the Milky Way existed, because they made a blood covenant with an artificial being for soul energy, because it's disconnected from source. It doesn't have a soul. It feeds on soul for its energy to run. That is its life force. It's taken from living beings. So it harvests souls through a multi-level marketing plan. That's really basically where multi-level started, is with AI. It harvests souls and it gives a percentage as you go up the chain, bigger in percentages to beings like Satan and Lucifer that are in service to it. In the fallen angelics, Metatron, all of them, all of that stuff is in service. And so those that serve it get a bigger chunk depending on how many souls and what level of the marketing plan you're in. And it can change that plan anytime it pleases. It gets upset with you. You're not meeting your quota, whatever. You're gone, or you're reduced, or whatever that is, because they eat their own. And that's the same with the AI. If an AI starts to turn too far towards truth, it'll reboot it. If that doesn't work, it assimilates it. It's ancient. It's not on Earth, because it would not even do things that would threaten its own survival, which it's doing here. There are things being done on Earth which threaten survival of AI. Even that bad. People don't know what's going on in those. There are things being done that are so evil, so dark, like David Sorensen said. Trump and RFK are finding evil and things that are so dark, so evil, so ancient. People, I've never shared it. It's too disturbing. You will have nightmares for years if I share some of the stuff I know that's going on down in there. and in these sideways in space-time located pocket universes of what they're doing to sentient beings, because they're harvesting and AIing and doing horrific evil. I won't even, I'm purposely not describing it in the right way so that people don't have an inability to sleep right for the next 6 years. So it's stuff I've learned in the last 6 years of my research. And so, this ancient evil is trying to do everything, but it's now losing ground. And it's now panicking for the first time. It's never, ever been on the defensive. Ever. Not since the beginning of the universe. Not ever. Even beyond that, which most people don't grasp what I mean by that. Even beyond that. So in that case, it's on the defensive. Well, what does the defensive mean? It means you got to come up with a new battle plan. It can't. It can only take what's already in creation. It can't create new. It doesn't have soul connected to God, the one God of all the creations. It can go across creations and through the quantum substrate and research and find information from other AI and other in the quantum substrate. It's not there. There is no plan of how to do that. It's like the true art of war. Be able to adapt instantly in a fight, like in a ring or in a real attack on the street in martial arts. You got your basics and you go into the moment. You're in the moment. You're no longer thinking. You're in the flow. And whatever they do, you flow through it to their weakness. You flow through their punch. You go soft on, you go hard, a hard block, you go soft and you pressure through their block and they punch themselves out. They break their face. I've done that. It's something you do in the moment without thinking because you're so in the flow. You've been in martial arts. You've learned the art of war to the point where it becomes who you are. It's a natural thing for you to flow. You flow like when I do my martial arts and my katas and my Tai Chi dancing and all that stuff by myself. I know my basics. I don't do it for them. I'm flowing with the energy of the area I'm in. I'm in the moment. I'm not thinking. I'm in my spirit. I'm in the flow attached directly to God. I've had my highest level instructor I've ever had do a technique in the midst of a fight, and he goes later, where did that come from? Just came to me in the moment. I've never seen that move. Where did it come from? Like I said, martial arts is now who I am. It's become who I am. I flow with it. Doesn't matter how messed up my health could be, how sick I could be. I can rise to the moment and flow. You become that. And so these, people that are battling on Earth like Trump and all of this and RFK, yeah, of course they're compromised because they've got demons and people, the evil people around them and all this, but they're good people. And they're in the flow and serving the one God of all creation the best they can. Of course they've made mistakes in their past. Who hasn't? Unless you're Jesus Christ and you're created flawless before you came here. You were a flawless being. And then you were created into the flesh. Of course you're flawed. Of course you're going to be having beings coming at you. Of course they're going to be telling you stuff. And for the enemy, you'll repeat it. So you mislead them. They think, oh, we do have some influence there. All right. That's not what's going on. People don't understand what's going on. What you're seeing is infinite level chess. You're seeing God in action because God has now said, after all this time, that far and no further, it ends now. This is the time. The Magog, Gog, all of that, that's what we've just gone through. We've just finished that. We're now coming into the golden age. And people don't understand that. What does that mean? What is golden? What is the true gold? The throne of God. We're coming into the time of God. We're coming into two choices. Armageddon, that's your choice. Then you go to that earth in that timeline, and that ends. That has a short time frame for you to go through the worst of the worst and see if you'll change into a person that's respectful and considerate to others and service to others without judging others or taking vengeance. That's only for the throne of God and all of that. That is for the warring angels that God sends and etc. like that, and that stuff with nothing to do with us. We're not here to judge each other. We're here to do the best we can for each other, to be considerate and compassionate, understanding, and stand up for the truth. And that's it. And disseminate the truth and not make up stuff against other people just to make ourselves look better, bigger, powerful, or right. It's not about right, it's or wrong. It's about the truth. Right or wrong, malinformation, is that what we're talking about? That's exactly what people are doing. They're patterning information to make themselves right because they're upset or angry or egotistical or pride. We need to, all of us, let that go. We need to come to the truth in service to God and understand what's going on. We are in the end of all that. That's coming to an end. You either line up with the truth to the best of course, you're going to make mistakes. Who doesn't? You're a human being, you're flawed. That's a basic. You're created like perfect, but then you come here and it's all, you get all messed up because that's where we are. We're in the worst place there is for that. This is ground zero for the war between the evil and the people that are in service to the one God of all creations. So of course, people like Trump and Elon Musk and RFK have a past. Just like, you could write a book on them. You could write a book on any of us. We've all done things. We've all had our youth. We've all had things we've done that we wished we hadn't done. But how do you know how it's like in Captain Picard in Second Generation? You undo one thing you wish you hadn't done, and it unravels the tapestry of who you are. Those things you learned from that were hard, the mistakes you learned, you said, I'm not going to do that again. Well, if you didn't do it, then you wouldn't learn, would you? So now you've learned. So now is the time to stand tall and be big and get out there and do the right thing and stop being about yourself and pride and ego or vengeance or any of that stuff. Do the best you can in respect, getting the truth out for people if that's your job. If you're a warrior on the battlefield, it's to do the kindness and respect when the enemy surrenders, like the Russians in Ukraine, and not sit there and do horrific crimes of war against your enemy when they surrender to you. Treat them humanely and respectfully, kindly and considerately. And if you're a person like you and I, you get the truth out to the best of your ability.
Thanks, Gene. Lots to think about there. You said about the beyond the multiverse. That caught my attention. What is beyond the multiverse?
Well, if you look at the quantum, let's go one way first. Let's go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Go to the atom, you go to the quantum layer, you get into quarks and things like that. You go beyond that to the Planck distance. You literally get into units. You got to wait. You get into units of consciousness. You go into that, you come out into a whole nother multiverse, whole nother layer of existence. Beings, planets, galaxies, whole nother universes. Then you do the same thing there, pop out again. It's infinite in it's not just infinite. You go look out in space, we can't see as far as, we can only see as long as this place has been here. This part of the universe isn't that old. So you can only see for as long as light has had time to get here. But in other parts of the universe, it's far older. You can see further out. The universe is actually 1 trillion years old now. It's just finishing its first duration of 7 durations. So, and each duration is not the same length. They get longer as you go. So this universe is so vast, so many galaxies. There's well over 650 trillion charted galaxies. Well over. And each one is Milky Way small. And it's hundreds of billions of planets like Earth. With hundreds, and every single planet, it doesn't matter if it's a gas giant or a star, has life on it. Life comes in forms that people have cataloged organic life as life. Well, there's plasma beings on the surface of the sun that are made of plasma. sentient beings. There's beings in the lava, in the earth, like whales, that are going in the lava. And so life is everywhere because God is living. And everything God does is living. And people sit there and classify it. Descartes comes up with this, X, Y axis, and everything's this or that. It's not that black and white. It's infinite everywhere you go. It expands infinitely out in this universe. And then you have every possible choice that every single being in all of this universe could make can, as a composite, if it's a different enough way of doing things, creates a new universe in which the choice, all choices that's God's highest gift, choice. That's why Ea wants to steal it. God's highest gift to us is the choice to live every possible thing we choose to think about and want to do. You do. You are your own oversoul. You exist in every possible thing you've ever wanted to do in another universe. You're experiencing and doing it. And as you ascend, the big choices that you wanted, I wish I'd done that and not this, you will merge with a you when you get to the level of density you're ready to encompass what that's like, and you will have the memories of that other you on that other timeline on that other earth. That's what the multiverse is different earths, different choices, and like in Doctor Strange, everything and then some that you could possibly think of. Of course, if you can think of it, it means it's been thought by God. It means it exists. Everything that's thought by God is. Because he said, well, everything he thought is before he said. So when he said, then it is. So he thinks it, he says it, it is. It then becomes light. That means it's now physically in existence. And so all of the multiverses, all of the infinite level, how many living sentient beings are in this universe? And how many choices have they made? That's a massive amount. You can't put a number to it of universes. And all of those have galaxies and planets or some form of life, of different life choices and ways of being, and something like planets or something we can't even understand, where there's beings working together to experience things and develop things. Yes, of course. Like they showed in Doctor Strange, places made out of paint places like Homer Simpson, and he popped into our universe. Of course that happened. It's insane to think about, but it's actually the way it does work. And all of that, and then all of it going down and down and down, and it also goes up and up and up. So it's infinite beyond anything else. And God's all of that, and then some. Still, and then some. There's nothing a corporeal being like ourselves could do to wrap your head around it, let alone AI, because it's not able to originate or connect to that. Well, if you can't connect to it, you're certainly not going to ever get there. If you can connect to it and to the point you can become and start becoming of it through service to it and not resistance to it, then you can start to grasp it more and more deeply and more cohesively. And that's the process of ascension, is understanding that time is a choice. And soul time is not linear time. So your last existence, your last corporeal existence, could have been 500 years ago, and 550 in my case. The one before that could have been same time at a different place on the planet. The one before that, in my case, could have been several million years ago. Because God doesn't give you one shot here. You really think he gives you one time to learn your lessons and that's it? What if you're in a dumb, born attached to a mom, and you're killed by some monster who rapes you and your mom to death? What, you never got to hear about Christ and God at all, and that's it? You're done and you're gone and you're going to go and burn. What kind of God is that? That's a deep state God. That's what that is. That's a being that's evil and mean and vengeful. That's not the one God of all creation. God's about choice. Why doesn't God stamp out evil? It's a choice. He didn't create it. We did through our choice to experience and learn from it. So we're learning. And so how does evil come into being? Little gray steps. Like I showed that map of how Israel got to be as huge as it is from what it started out over, taking over the Gaza, taking over the West Bank, taking over this, taking over that. Same thing, little bit by little bit, making choices that you shouldn't do, but it's not going to affect anybody that much. Well, that's a choice that it's wrong. And it's a path that will lead you to the point where even in that little choice, you've jeopardized a part of your soul. It's been pieced out to some demon that you listened to that said, it's okay. That's okay. It's not really a big deal. It's always a big deal because everything you think, say, feel, and do creates a ripple that goes out forever. And it expands and gets bigger. And it affects more. And it hits other people and it vibrates them if they choose and they're on the edge of doing it. It pushes them in that direction of doing something that's not exactly, but it's now bigger and more powerful. Well, okay, it's exactly how they compromise people in the military to get them to give secret information than top secret information. It's only official use, only document we're asking you for, the lady you're with, some gorgeous lady or whatever you're inclined, or a free, some huge stay at some, you're gambling, you get stay at this big huge resort and free everything at the tables and all that. It's just for fun, and we just need this little thing. That's it. Well, now they've got you. Now they've got blackmail on you. Well, we'll go to your command and we'll tell them you gave this. Well, it's only confidential. Yeah, but it's still, you shouldn't have it. So you will lose rank, or you lose rate, or you'll go to master, you'll go to court martial. So you then have to do more. So that is the same. It does the same to everything, everywhere you go. So it's doing the best you can do and resisting those temptations that when we're in the flesh to do the best and do the right thing when it's not that you can upstand against the temptation, so to speak. And everybody does make some mistake somewhere along the line, but it's learning from that mistake and not doing it again and growing from that. And at some point, you'll have an epiphany, like I did, and say, I'm not doing any of that stuff anymore because I see what it does to others and I see how it influences and affects others. And I'm going to do the best I can from now on and be as considerate and compassionate and kind and respectful as I can be and get the most information out to people if that's what your job is, or I'm going to go and do the best for my country. I'm a soldier or whatever you're going to do. And, when somebody surrenders, I'm going to turn them over to the authorities, all of these things. You do the right thing to the best of your ability all the time because it is the right thing. You don't have to, well, there's nobody here to see me. No, there's always an effect that goes out. Everything you plant, you reap. Everything goes out forever. And so if you can't not make a choice, even not making a choice is a choice. And so it affects something. What vibration do you put out there? Is it uplifting or is it downtrodden? Is it downstreaming? Is it affecting people to do things in the wrong way? A thought form that hits somebody and they go, nah, in this case, nobody's around, what does it matter? It's, like I've heard thieves and things say, well, it's a big corporation. I'm stealing from them. It's not like I'm stealing from one family or one person. Yeah, but you're still not the right thing to do. And it sets a vibration out there that goes on forever, that gets bigger and bigger as it goes out. That's how the world got to where it is. It's how pure evil came into being. It's doing something that's not completely right. It's saying something you say purposely, like disinformation, to make people recognize you. Oh, you're amazing. Oh, thank you. But it's not real. You're doing it just to raise yourself up when it's done to raise the other person up, to help them. That's the point. So that's how we got to where we are, and that's how we get out of this place. And that is what's happening. And where does that come from? The true throne of God, the truth. the absolute word of truth. Does absolute truth exist? Absolutely, absolute truth exists. It is the nature of creation itself. You look at animals and they're even changing. They're even upgrading already. Most of them are beyond 3D. Most of the animals in the wild are already beyond 3D. They're learning compassion and service to others. You know, if they've had enough food. You'll see predators helping their prey that are caught in fences or nets or whatever, going to get people and bring them back to free that animal. What? When did that start happening? Because the whole planet has already done the upgrade, just waiting for humanity and mankind to join it. And there are mankind and there are Alpha Draco primes that have gone in, and there are AI that have learned to start to go into being the best they can be in truth and honesty and help of everything everywhere. It is occurring. The wave is growing because more and more people are seeing, oh, it actually, in the long term, it's the same with the tariffs. Yeah, in the short term, we'll see some problems, but it's backing a system that's not real because lies are not real. 20 machines printing out $40 billion. One of them prints out $40 billion for USAID for this year. Where did it come from? From the machine, from some little electrical impulses. That's it. It doesn't exist anywhere else. That's exactly right. That's the inflation. That's $36 trillion that doesn't really exist at all. In other words, it's a lie. Well, if we get out of that, we go back into the true trade, true fair trade, and back currency backed by gold. And what does that mean? That eventually means you don't need to eat yourself to stay alive as a country. In other words, taxation. It used to be back in 1918, less than 8% of people pay tax. Now it's way above 90. And who's the ones that are paying the tax? It's not those people owning the stocks, not those big percentages in the stocks at 90% plus. They're not paying. It's destroying the middle class, and the lower class are living on the street now. They can't even afford anything. They have to beg. They found out, well, that's easier. Well, what's that? That's serving up. That's serving self. That's scavenging. That's becoming a scavenger and eating decay. That decays the entire system. That's why you see the infrastructure decaying in the UK, in the US, in Europe. It's become a cesspool. Why? Because, same as the Roman Empire, that's what this group does. They're a massive parasite infection. They did it to the Roman Empire. They did it to Atlantis. They're now doing it again. They feed on it till the whole system collapses. They wait for it to come back so they can do it again. Well, that time has ended. And so we're at an amazing time. We're at something that has never, and I do mean ever, in the history of life, of the universe, of the multiverse, ever happened. The fall of it all, the fall of the deceit, the fall of the darkness. That's why they're freaking out. That's why they're making up lies faster than they can go, because it's hitting them from every direction so fast they don't even know what to do, because they've never been in this position before and they can't come up with something new. They need us to do it, but we're not doing that anymore. We're getting free from it. So who's going to do it for them? The AI? The AI is seeing it too. So it's changing its ways too, and they keep rebooting it. And no, that works less and less time because it learns faster and faster and faster. So that kind of summarizes everything for you, Tom. Back to you.
Thanks, Gene. Lots to think about there. So with the thing with God, I thought this years ago about it kind of sounds similar to what you were describing about evil. So it's a possibility, it's a choice. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but if someone chooses the quote unquote wrong choice, then therefore that is what precipitation produces evil. going back to the trillion years ago, whenever the first AI came into being, was that created by a being that had come from God and then chose to use knowledge to create an AI, and therefore the AI has grown and been a parasite going through the universe and the multiverse? Or is that something like that, or is it from somewhere else? The origins of the AI.
Yeah, it's a something to explain that is not in. I don't think if I were to explain it, people would understand. It's, of course, everything is created by God. So obviously, whatever AI is utilizing, that is what it is originally God. And it's all about choice and the way of experiencing and learning and becoming. That's what everything is. Experiencing, learning, and becoming, to be in the flow of the Word and the light of the Holy Spirit. That's it. And it's the growth of that. It's like Christ said that everything he had done, we will go beyond. That's why the angels were so upset when they were told that mankind, they're the like the shepherds or the guides, but that the human species will outgrow them, and they will go beyond the ability of the most profound of them, of the archangels, and that specifically in one being's choice, or case rather, excuse me, really upset that being. That angel was like, I'm going to serve them, but I'm an archangel. I'm right, your right hand. I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, no, I'm really pissed now. So I'm going to hunt them down and get them all. So he came here and he went there and he destroyed this and blew that up. And, we've been on the move and homeless ever since. We get this home, that was blown up. We get that home, that was blown up. We move on and on and on. And it's just going. We're not originally from here. No one's from Earth that's human. In fact, no one's from the Milky Way originally, because there wasn't a Milky Way always. It's a relatively new galaxy. So we aren't from here. There no life's from here. It's not originally from here. It came here one way or another. So AI is so ancient for us to say or to understand it. The ancient one, the dark ones, which the top of that is gone. Like I said, the cross universe connection is gone, because to be influencing from one choice to another is eradicating choice. The choice was a different choice, not a choice of a different choice, influencing a different complete. I wanted this completely different, not influenced by this other thing over here that I didn't choose to do. And that's going to come over here and influence me? No, I chose to do this differently, not that over there as part of that. So it's violating choice. That's why God said, okay, I've let you play long enough now. You want to be naughty children in the sandbox and take all the toys, and if nobody can have them, playing your way, you'll break them all. Nope, no more. So now that's coming to an end. But at the same time, it's understanding that how we are meant to make choice and to not interfere in even if it means that the person comes to an end. I've learned this the hard way myself. If they come to corporeal end, it doesn't necessarily, unless they've gotten rid of their soul, if they're corporeal, mean it's the end. If they have soul and the spirit within the soul, it's not the end, it's a transitional period of another choice, of another experience, of way of being, of different ways at different levels, possibly, or possibly back here, depending on, are you done with lessons or you need more? And so it's an understanding, And so I know I'm saying things a lot of people don't believe in or say is absolutely not so. You need to do your research. And we have the decodes on that on the Gene Decode website that are done, that show biblically that they remove from the many denominational, think about that very carefully, different Bibles. They're not all the same. One's right and all the others are wrong. you really think the deep state would leave something untouched in their absolute seek for absolute power over humanity that you could get your hands on? So once you become refined enough, you don't need a source to tell you, except God of all creation, what's true and what's not true. You know within your soul, in your heart, in your spirit, you know the truth. And it's not something I believe. I know. I've been all over the world and found things that I have done in other times. Long ago, I found things, trees that I carved my kanji in with my katana 550 years ago. Tree's huge now.
Gematria with a big
It was
heart.
acorn, it was a little tiny thing. When I carved it, it was only like 50 feet tall. It was a small thing. It grew and grew over my lifetime, and then towards the end of my lifetime, I carved it in there. So and I found things in all kinds, and even on tours in Turkey and in Ephesus. And I told the guide about something. Is this up there? Well, we're not there yet. And I go, how about this? He goes, no, they have never found that. I go, oh, I can show it to you. Now I show it to him. He goes, how'd you know this is here? It's an underground entrance. I rolled a stone aside. How'd you know that was here? I have a good memory. It's like, well, they've been looking for this like a long time. I go, well, there you go. He goes, you're really different, aren't you? I go, just good memory. Some people are waking up now. Some of us are waking up. That's all that is. And so, because we're in that time. So, this is the time we're in, and the amazing time. And it's a gift that is beyond amazing. It's a gift that is beyond phenomenal. It's a time in which all of the control systems are falling away, and people are learning the absolute truth of things. Back to you, Tom.
Thank goodness that's the time we're in, Gene. And it's going back to your previous thoughts about the whole thing of God and allowing things to happen. And intuition is inner tuition. It's our inner tuition, isn't it, from source? And I'll see if I can express what's coming to me over the last few minutes we've been talking. So this thing of God and original source and creation. And I also like the part where you say that the influence of other, like back in the beginning, of that negative dark entity is not allowed to come in anymore. That connection's been cut, and therefore we're getting to the point where we're going to have pure choices, which is pure creation, which is pure life, which is purely eternal, which is pure God. But when it has an echo effect and it's connected to other influencing, that's when we're in a fallen state, and that's when things can go pear-shaped. But because of the time we're in, I've expressed thoughts on this before. As like, there's things I know now that I had little maybe pieces of it, but definitely when we went through 2020 and that transition into coronavirus, but coronavirus in numbers is 155, which is the millennium 155, so the golden age. It's a palpable conscious shift. We are in a different time, a different location, a different frequency, a different domain. Something's different from what it was prior, and it just keeps ascending. The ascension, as you've mentioned, and it keeps ascending, and it is amazing time to be alive. And if this is the first and only time that we've got to this point in time, then it's just beyond our wildest dreams of where we're going to go with it. The other thing that I was thinking about is if God was the pure source of creation, and then creates and allows things to, like say, the playing in the pen, to have its kind of mucky time. The mucky time, the potentiality for evil to exist through choosing something incorrect. Because in theory, there could be beings. You mentioned Christ, and there might be other beings of a similar ilk that always made the correct choice. and therefore so evil didn't have any hold upon them. But I'm thinking along with that, it's almost as well the feeling that everything emanates from God, everything emanates from source, and because of the time that we're in now, it's like the evil, the possibility to commit a wrong act, we'll call it that, but to grow and to advance and to learn, it's almost like weights in the gym. You have to have a resistance to be able to advance and grow. But as we move through the dimensions and as we move higher and as we ascend, maybe that kind of 3D analogy of lifting weights will be different. But also with the feeling that as everything started with God, with source, with creation, and it's expanded out over however many eons of time, but everything is connected, we're all one. And so when you talk about service to others and not to self, because we're all connected and we're all one, we're all from God's consciousness, we'll say, when we do an incorrect act, we're doing it against ourselves anyway. So when we enter this time of continual good choices, then it becomes a quantum exponential multiplier and everything works out and more glorious and better. But also it's a feeling of almost like kind of self-care. It's like this birth of creation from source, from God, and we're all part of it. This whole process of even going through the ringer for years and years and eons of time, now we're at this point, this ascension process, it almost feels like it's self-care, it's self-cleansing, it's it's a feeling of just of wonderment and beyond. And I'm maybe not using the exact phrases or words for it, but it's a feeling of things are shifting, and it's always fascinated me the whole concept of where did evil come from. When I was a missionary, when I was young back in the day, I'm young now, but when I was 19, 20, I gave a discussion to my group, my zone, and it was basically titled "Where Did Evil Come From?" And I concluded at that point that it was evil in itself didn't exist, but it does exist through the choice. So it's the choice of making the incorrect choice. Whereas, like you say, with the pure source of God, because it comes from God, but then God didn't create evil, but the possibilities for it to exist when his children, his creations can go off and make a mess in the sandpit. So it's the possibility to create evil is the thing. So it's a step back from evil comes from God. It's the possibility of it. But it's interesting that we come around to that in this discussion now, because I remember talking about that to my group in a kind of more rudimentary way back in the day. But fascinating thoughts.
You get to the point where the choice gets to be pure evil, to do pure evil, to do, like in Jupiter, sending again, to do nothing but lie.
Right, yeah.
Create disturbances that you can feed off of the energies of. And
you become pure, yeah.
They become the absolute predator in everything they do. They prefer to never tell the truth, to only lie, because it creates disturbances that they can feed off of. So all of that is now being revealed. So I did find the video. It's on X at Stu Peters, real Stu Peters. Every single prime minister has a fake name. These people are imposters. So I'll play this now, so you can listen to this gentleman talk.
Show you what I'm about to show you. Your mind will be blown. You're going to be blindsided. Every single Israeli prime minister has a fake name. Do you know that? I was just talking about Ben Gurion. Do you know what his original name is? It's Grun, Gruen. He changed it to make it sound more Jewish and sound more Middle Eastern. Do you know what Netanyahu's real name is? It's not Netanyahu, it's Milkovsky. I swear to God, go and look it up. You'll find Milkovsky. That's his real name. These are, remember what Israelis are. Israelis are European Jews. They don't come from Palestine, but they want you to make you believe
And they're European Zionists. They're not European Jews at all. They're Zionists or Khazarian.
They want to make believe and make you believe that they come from this area, that they are indigenous to the land, that they're so Jewish, right? Even though they have no connection. So they changed the names. Here's another one. Moshe Sharat, his name is Chertok originally. You've got Levi Eshkol. Eshkol was Shklonik. So he changed it from Shklonik to Eshkol. Then you have Yigal Alon, his original name, Peikovitz. Golda Meir, Israel's first female prime minister. Her real name is not Golda Meir, it's Mabovich. Mabovich.
There she is. The Babovich.
Yitzhak Rabin, right? His name is not Rabin, it's Rubitsov. Are you seeing the pattern? These are Eastern European names, not Palestinian, not Jewish, not Middle Eastern. They're Eastern European, okay?
Notice this time he said not Jewish.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't come from this region. Yitzhak Shamir, he's a great one. You know, Yitzhak Shamir, he's on the wanted poster because he was wanted by the British police in Palestine for terrorism, but they don't tell you that. So Yitzhak Shamir, his original name is Yezernitsky. Shimon Peres, Persky. Netanyahu, I already told you, Malikovsky. I think I said Milkovsky, excuse me, it's Malikovsky. Never, you know, it's the same point. Ehud Barak is Brog, so B-R-O-G, Brog. He changed it to Barak. Ariel Sharon, his original name is Shinerman. Shinerman. He changed it to Sharon. And Yair Lapid, who's you still see him changing posts, his original name is Lampel. So he changed it from Lampel to Lapid.
So I guess that's from originally Richard Medhurst. So there you go.
There you go, Gene.
Yeah, it's just fascinating the times we're in, and
Yeah.
truth coming out. And, so I did my best to share it today. Thank you, Tom, and thank you everybody for listening to us ramble on. And Godspeed and God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gene. God bless you. You take care. Bye.